Phoned me later. "Oh, just so you know, the party's only immediate family. Hope you understand." My dad messaged, "Stop being dramatic." So I didn't make it dramatic. I simply canceled all contractor payments and froze the landscaping funds. The following day, I had 39 missed calls and my mom at my door, shouting my name. I let her yell, then opened the door and then I paid $10,200 toward my parents' backyard renovation. But my aunt, can you imagine pouring your heart, soul, and over $10,000 into creating a dream backyard for your parents, only to find out you're explicitly uninvited to the very first celebration held there? Yeah, that happened to me. And honestly, it hit me harder than I ever thought possible. My name is Brooke, and for years, I was the responsible one in my family. The achiever. The one who made things happen. From honor roll certificates plastered on my bedroom walls to working part-time jobs all through high school just to save for college, I was driven. My parents, Thomas and Margaret Harrison, always had these incredibly high expectations. And when I earned a full scholarship to Boston University and graduated with honors, lining up an entry-level position at a respected financial firm, they were proud, but also a little bit unsurprised. It was just expected. That's when my financial relationship with them shifted. I was only 22, barely making enough to cover my own expenses, but suddenly, I became their go-to financial resource. It started small, helping with a new water heater, chipping in for property taxes, covering an insurance deductible when Dad needed unexpected surgery. I never complained. They raised me, right? This was my way of showing gratitude. But these small requests grew into a pattern. My younger brother, Ryan, needed help with college expenses. I covered them. Their car broke down. I put down the payment for a new one. Each time, the appreciation seemed to shrink. What started as profuse thanks morphed into a casual acknowledgement, and then, just flat-out expectation. Our family home in suburban Massachusetts, a modest 4-bedroom colonial with faded blue siding, it meant everything to them. It's where I grew up, where every holiday happened, where all our memories were made. And the backyard, specifically, was my mother's lifelong dream space. Just unrealized potential. Ryan, he's 3 years younger than me, and he's always been the family favorite, even if nobody would admit it. He's more outgoing, less concerned with achievement, more about just living. Now he's a high school gym teacher, happily married with a baby on the way. My parents adore him, and they give him a pass on financial contributions because he's starting a family. You know the drill. Then there's Aunt Diana, my mom's younger sister. She lives close by and is practically Mom's clone. They talk daily, share every opinion, and Diana always reinforced my role as the responsible, helpful daughter. "Your parents are so lucky to have you," she'd coo, while simultaneously reminding me of all the sacrifices they'd made for my success. As my parents neared retirement, they started talking more about entertaining. My mom, especially, wanted to host those big family gatherings, Sunday brunches, holiday celebrations. And the backyard, which for decades had been nothing but patchy grass and Dad's rusty grill, became her total fixation. Meanwhile, I'd been working my butt off. I'd climbed the corporate ladder to senior financial analyst and just landed a substantial promotion. I'd bought a comfortable condo, invested wisely, built a solid emergency fund. From the outside, I had it all together. But internally, I still measured my worth, at least partially, through my parents' validation. My promotion finally gave me some real financial flexibility. After years of budgeting and living modestly, I could afford some luxuries. I was even planning a trip to Europe, my first real vacation in years. But then, during one of our weekly Sunday dinners, my mom mentioned the backyard renovation. She pulled out Pinterest boards, full of string lights, stone patios, outdoor kitchens, and I saw an opportunity. An opportunity to finally do something truly special for them. Something they wouldn't take for granted. "Mom," I remember saying, my eyes on hers as they lit up. "What if I helped you with this? I got that promotion, and I'd love to put some of it toward making this happen for you and Dad." Little did I know, that simple offer would lead to one of the most painful lessons of my adult life. The conversation about the backyard started so innocently. Mom's famous pot roast, a warm spring evening. As we finished eating, she pulled out her tablet. "Wouldn't it be wonderful to have a proper space for entertaining?" she sighed, scrolling through images of elegant outdoor living areas. "Your father and I aren't getting any younger. I'd love to host the family more often while we still can." Dad nodded along, but then the classic dad practicality kicked in. "Dreams are nice, Maggie, but we're on a fixed income now. Those fancy setups cost a fortune." I saw the disappointment in my mom's eyes. After decades of putting everyone else first, raising kids, supporting Dad's career, maintaining our home, she rarely asked for anything for herself. That backyard had been her unfulfilled dream forever. What if we made it happen? I suggested, my heart swelling with an eagerness to please. "I could help with the costs. My promotion came with a substantial raise, and I'd love to do something special for you both." The transformation in their expressions was immediate. Mom's eyes widened with excitement, while Dad's financial concerns seemed to just evaporate. Within minutes, they were discussing possibilities that had been off the table moments before: a stone patio, built-in seating, a pergola, even an outdoor kitchen area. "We could host the family reunion this summer," Mom exclaimed, practically glowing. Everyone could see the house looking its best. Dad was already discussing logistics. "We'd need to get started right away if we want it finished by July. The family anniversary party would be the perfect debut." I left that evening with such a warm feeling. Finally, I was doing something meaningful for my parents. Something substantial. A dream fulfilled, not just a bill paid or an emergency handled. The planning began in earnest. I took a day off work to go with them to landscape companies, looking at samples, discussing designs. Mom wanted natural stone, not concrete. Dad insisted on quality construction. I pushed them to choose what they truly wanted. "Get what you love," I told them. "This is your dream space." We settled on evergreen landscaping. The design included a 500-square-foot stone patio, a cedar pergola, built-in seating, lighting, and a small outdoor kitchen. The quote was $8,400. Reasonable, I thought. I met with John, the project manager, finalized everything. I'd make an initial deposit, then progress payments. The whole thing would take 6 weeks. Finishing in mid-June. Perfect timing for that big family celebration in July. As the project progressed, my parents' excitement grew, along with their demands. Mom decided the lighting plan wasn't adequate and wanted an upgrade. Dad thought the standard grill wasn't enough, so he picked a premium model. Each change incrementally increased the budget, but I approved them all. Seeing them so engaged and happy was worth every dollar. The timing dovetailed perfectly with the planning for the family's 50th anniversary celebration, my grandparents' wedding anniversary. Even though they'd both passed years ago, the extended Harrison family gathered every 5 years to honor them. And this year, my parents had volunteered to host. It would be the perfect showcase for the new backyard. I visited the house weekly, checking on progress, often bringing lunch for the workers. Each time, the space looked more impressive. The stone patio was a work of art. The pergola added definition. The built-in features were beautiful and functional. My excitement grew alongside my parents. I imagined those family gatherings, me casually mentioning, "Oh, I helped make this happen," finally receiving acknowledgement for my contribution. Maybe this substantial gift would change the dynamic. Show them I wasn't just the reliable daughter they could call for financial help, but someone whose generosity deserved recognition and inclusion. But even during these visits, I started noticing things. Concerning things. Sometimes, I'd arrive to find Aunt Diana there, discussing party plans with my mother. They'd quickly change the subject when I approached. When I asked direct questions about the party, answers were vague, still figuring out details, or nothing's finalized yet. I dismissed my concerns. After all, I was busy with work, putting in 60-hour weeks while still overseeing the renovation. They were probably just avoiding burdening me. I couldn't have been more wrong. As May bled into June, the renovation transformed that neglected backyard into a magazine-worthy outdoor living space. The stone patio finished. The pergola erected. landscape plantings taking shape. I felt such pride seeing my financial contribution create something beautiful and lasting. Your parents must be thrilled with what you're doing for them, John, the project manager, remarked one morning. Not many children would invest this much in their parents' home. I beamed. They've done so much for me. It's nice to give something back. The family anniversary celebration was a frequent topic at Sunday dinners. My mother would mention calls with relatives, discussing who is attending and from how far. Cousin Jessica is coming all the way from Arizona, she'd gush. And Uncle Paul confirmed yesterday. But whenever I asked about specific plans, the menu, the schedule, how I could help, the answers became increasingly evasive. Don't worry about those details, Mom would say. You're doing enough with the backyard. We don't want to burden you with planning, too. One Sunday, I arrived to find Ryan and his wife, Melissa, already there. They quickly changed the subject when I entered the kitchen. I caught the tail end of something about seating arrangements. What about seating arrangements? I asked, trying to sound casual. Oh, nothing important, Mom replied, too quickly. Just thinking about the anniversary party logistics. Later, I pulled Ryan aside. Is everything okay? I feel like I'm being left out of the party planning. My brother looked profoundly uncomfortable, avoiding eye contact. I'm sure they're just trying not to stress you out. You know how Mom gets with these events. Very particular. But the pattern continued. I'd overhear phone conversations that abruptly ended when I entered a room. My parents became secretive about their planning notebook, closing it whenever I came near. Aunt Diana was at the house more frequently, and she and my mother would exchange glances when certain topics arose. Meanwhile, the project costs kept climbing. The original $8,400 estimate had already jumped to over $9,000 with the upgrades. Then Mom decided she wanted additional landscaping, flowering shrubs, perennial beds, to soften the stonework. This pushed the budget to $9,800. I approved it without hesitation. Their excitement felt genuine, and I rationalized that after coming this far, we shouldn't compromise. My workload intensified then. 14-hour days became normal. Yet, I still made time for the renovation, answering calls, making decisions. One evening, exhausted, I got a text from Mom with yet another upgrade request: specialty outdoor furniture. Nearly $1,000. It would complete the space perfectly, she wrote. The standard furniture just doesn't do justice to the beautiful work. I hesitated. Briefly. I thought of my postponed European vacation, the hours I was working to afford these continuous additions. But then I imagined their happy faces, hosting the celebration in their perfectly appointed new backyard. Go ahead and order it, I texted back. I want everything to be exactly as you've imagined it. The total now stood at $10,200. Far more than I'd planned. But still manageable. I told myself it was worth it for the recognition, the appreciation I'd receive at the celebration, imagining my parents proudly telling family members about my contribution. In retrospect, the signs were all there. The hushed conversations, the evasive answers, Aunt Diana's constant presence, Ryan's discomfort. But I was too busy, too hopeful, too determined to finally earn my parents' genuine appreciation to see what was happening right in front of me. The final payment was made in mid-June. The transformation was remarkable. From a neglected patch of grass to an elegant outdoor living space. It was everything my mother had dreamed of and more. It's perfect, Mom said, tears in her eyes as we surveyed the finished space. Better than I ever imagined. Dad, not usually emotional, put his arm around me. You did good, Brooke. Really good. In that moment, I felt it. The money, the time, the effort, all worthwhile. Finally, I had done something that truly mattered to them. Something they couldn't dismiss or take for granted. I was completely unprepared for what would happen next. The renovation was completed on a Thursday, 3 weeks before the big family anniversary celebration. The final walkthrough with John confirmed everything was perfect. I stood in that transformed space, feeling this profound sense of satisfaction. For once, I had provided something truly meaningful to my parents. Not just financial assistance for necessities, but something that brought beauty and joy into their lives. The $10,200 investment seemed entirely worthwhile. I watched my mother's face as she explored her new outdoor oasis. "I can't believe this is our backyard," she kept saying, touching the smooth cedar, adjusting the new cushions. "It's like something from a magazine." Even my father, typically stoic, seemed genuinely pleased. "Solid work," he commented. "This will last for years." I left that evening feeling closer to my parents than I had in a long time. The project had created a bond, a shared experience. I imagined the upcoming celebration, relatives mingling in this gorgeous new space, my parents proudly telling everyone how their successful daughter had made it all possible. The betrayal came 2 days later. Saturday morning. I was enjoying a rare, leisurely breakfast at my condo, coffee, emails, when my phone rang. "Aunt Diana." I answered without hesitation. "Brooke, honey," she began, her voice casual. "I wanted to check about the guest list for the anniversary party. Your mom mentioned you might be bringing someone." "No," I replied, confused. "I'm not seeing anyone seriously right now." "Mom knows that." "Oh." Aunt Diana paused. "Well, that simplifies things, I suppose." "What do you mean?" Another pause. Longer this time. "Well, I thought you knew. The celebration is just going to be immediate family. Your parents, Ryan and Melissa, me and Uncle Jim, and your grandparents from your dad's side." My coffee mug froze halfway to my lips. My stomach dropped. "What are you talking about?" "This is the family reunion. Everyone's coming." "Oh no, honey. That's in September at the lake house. This is just a small dinner to mark the actual anniversary date. Very intimate." My mind raced, trying to process this. But the backyard renovation, it was specifically for hosting the family celebration in July. That's what we've been planning for months. Well, yes, they'll certainly use the new backyard for that too. But the July dinner is just immediate family. I assumed you knew. You're so busy with work, and your parents didn't want to burden you with attending something so small when you've already done so much with the renovation. The realization hit me like a physical blow. I wasn't invited. I had spent over $10,000 creating a beautiful entertainment space for a celebration I wouldn't be attending. "So, let me get this straight," I said slowly, my voice strangely calm despite the storm building inside me. "I've paid for the entire backyard renovation so my parents can host a family dinner that I'm not invited to?" "Oh, Brooke, when you put it that way, it sounds terrible. Of course, they appreciate everything you've done. It's just that with Ryan and Melissa expecting, and the grandparents getting older, they wanted something very small. I'm sure they meant to tell you. Maybe they assumed I had already mentioned it." "How long have you known about this immediate family-only plan?" I asked, my voice now tight with controlled anger. Aunt Diana hesitated. "Well, since they started planning it a couple of months ago, I suppose." The timeline was clear. They had known from the beginning, even before I offered to fund the renovation. My parents had deliberately kept me in the dark while accepting thousands of dollars for a space they planned to enjoy without me. "I have to go," I said abruptly. "Brooke, honey, don't be upset." "I'm sure your parents meant to," I ended the call. For several minutes, I sat motionless at my kitchen island, the revelation washing over me in waves. Every evasive answer about party details. Every hushed conversation that stopped when I entered the room. Ryan's discomfort. It all made sense now. I called my mother. No answer. My father. Straight to voicemail. I sent a text to both of them. Asterisk, just spoke with Diana. Is it true I'm not invited to the anniversary dinner in the backyard I paid for? Asterisk, 20 minutes later, my father's response appeared. Asterisk, don't be dramatic. It's just a small family dinner. We'll celebrate with everyone in September. Asterisk, don't be dramatic. The dismissal stung worse than the exclusion itself. There was no apology, no acknowledgement of how hurtful their actions were, just a minimization of my feelings. Then I checked social media. Aunt Diana had already posted about the upcoming intimate family celebration, tagging my parents, Ryan and Melissa, my uncle, and even my second cousin, Teresa, who lived less than an hour away. Not immediate family only, just Brooke-free. The betrayal was complete. I had been intentionally misled by the people I trusted most, the people whose approval I had spent my entire adult life seeking. I had sacrificed my own plans, postponed my European vacation, and spent thousands of dollars to create a beautiful space for a celebration where I wasn't welcome. For the first time in my life, I allowed myself to feel the full weight of how my parents had treated me. Not just in this instance, but in a pattern stretching back years. I was good enough to provide financial support, good enough to solve problems, but not good enough to include. I sank to my kitchen floor and did something I hadn't done since childhood. I cried. Deep, racking sobs that came from a place of profound hurt and betrayal. For nearly an hour, I let the emotions flow, acknowledging years of seeking approval that was never fully given. When the tears finally subsided, something else emerged from the hollow ache in my chest. A quiet, steady resolve. A determination that this would be the last time I allowed myself to be treated this way. I picked myself up off the floor, wiped my eyes, and began to formulate a plan. After that devastating call from Aunt Diana, I spent the rest of Saturday in a fog of hurt and disbelief. Crushing disappointment, burning anger, hollow sadness. My phone stayed silent. No calls from my parents to explain or apologize. By Sunday morning, the fog began to lift, replaced by a clarity I hadn't experienced before. I called my closest friend, Natalie. She'd witnessed my relationship with my parents for years. "They did what?" she exclaimed. "Brooke, that's beyond inconsiderate. It's cruel." "I keep wondering if I'm overreacting," I admitted. "Dad said not to be dramatic." "Classic gaslighting," Natalie replied firmly. "You spent over $10,000 on a renovation for a party you're not invited to. That's not being dramatic. That's having a normal human reaction to being used." Hearing someone else frame it so bluntly helped solidify my thoughts. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a deliberate choice my parents had made while accepting my financial contribution. "What are you going to do?" Natalie asked. "I'm still figuring that out," I said. "But I know one thing. I'm done being taken for granted." After our call, I opened my laptop and pulled up my financial records. Payments to Evergreen Landscaping, 3 installments. The initial deposit, a mid-project payment, and the final payment just days ago. The project was complete, but I knew there were still outstanding payments to some subcontractors for specialty work like the lighting and irrigation. I also remembered the maintenance agreement I'd established, a prepaid account of $1,200 for ongoing landscaping care. That money was held in an escrow account, untouched until services were performed. Next, I researched my legal position. I had signed all the contracts as the financially responsible party. The agreements were between me and the various companies, not my parents. While the work was on their property, I was legally entitled to modify or cancel any outstanding financial arrangements. The decision crystallized. I would not allow this pattern to continue. For years, I had given without boundaries, seeking approval that was never fully granted. This time would be different. I drafted a careful email to John at Evergreen Landscaping, * due to unforeseen circumstances. I need to discuss modifications to our payment arrangements for the Harrison project. Please call me at your earliest convenience regarding the outstanding subcontractor payments and the maintenance fund. Then I sat back and considered the potential fallout. My parents would be furious. Family relationships might be permanently altered. But for the first time, I found myself prioritizing my own emotional well-being over my parents' expectations or approval. John called within the hour. "Is there a problem with the work, Brooke?" I thought everyone was pleased. "The work is perfect," I assured him. "This is a personal matter. I need to know what payments are still pending and whether they can be canceled." John hesitated, but explained that the final electrical and irrigation payments, totaling about $1,800, were scheduled to process on Monday. The $1,200 maintenance fund was held separately. "I need to cancel those pending payments and freeze the maintenance fund," I said, my voice steady. "Can that be arranged?" After some discussion and a brief explanation that this was due to a family disagreement rather than dissatisfaction, John reluctantly agreed. He'd need written confirmation, which I promised to send immediately. "The maintenance fund can be frozen." "No problem," he added. "Those services haven't started yet." I thanked him, ended the call, and within minutes, drafted and sent the official request. A total of $3,000 would not be released. Next, I composed a brief, factual text to my parents. Asterisk, I've canceled the remaining contractor payments and frozen the maintenance fund for the backyard. Since I'm not considered immediate family for the celebration, I no longer wish to financially contribute to it. We should talk when you're ready to have an honest conversation. Asterisk, I hesitated before sending it, my finger hovering over the button. This would cross a line that couldn't be uncrossed. For a moment, I considered backing down, following the familiar pattern of putting my feelings aside to maintain peace. Then I remembered my father's dismissive text, "Don't be dramatic." I pressed send. Setting the phone down, I felt a strange mixture of anxiety and liberation. For perhaps the first time in my adult life, I had established a clear boundary with my parents. I had prioritized my own emotional health over their expectations. The sensation was both terrifying and exhilarating. I spent the rest of Sunday preparing myself mentally for the confrontation that would inevitably follow. I made notes about patterns, instances where I'd been taken for granted or excluded. I rehearsed calm responses to the emotional manipulation I anticipated. Most importantly, I clarified what I needed going forward: acknowledgement of my feelings, respect for my boundaries, and a relationship based on mutual consideration rather than expectation and obligation. When no response came from my parents that evening, I realized they might be choosing to ignore my message, hoping I'd back down. Or perhaps they were strategizing. I slept fitfully, checking my silent phone. By morning, I'd resigned myself to a longer standoff. I prepared for work, determined to focus on a major client presentation scheduled for that afternoon. As I left my condo at 7:30 a.m., I had no idea that by the time I returned that evening, everything would have changed irrevocably. Monday passed in a blur of client meetings and presentation prep. I'd silenced my personal phone, letting work be a welcome distraction. It wasn't until 6:45 p.m., as I was gathering my things to leave the office, that I finally checked my messages. The screen displayed 39 missed calls. 15 from my mother, 12 from my father, 7 from Aunt Diana, 3 from Ryan, 2 from my uncle. Voicemail boxes were full. Text messages numbered in the dozens, their tone evolving from confusion to anger to desperate pleas. My mother's texts began with disbelief. Asterisk, what do you mean you canceled payments? Call me immediately. Asterisk, they progressed to anger. Asterisk, this is completely irresponsible. The contractors are calling us. Fix this now. Asterisk, finally. Desperation. Asterisk, please, Brooke. We need to talk. I'm coming to your place. Asterisk, my father's messages were more direct. Asterisk, you've crossed a line. The contractors are threatening liens on our property. Asterisk, Ryan's texts were the most measured. Asterisk, mom and dad are freaking out. Whatever happened, maybe we can talk through it. Asterisk, I took a deep breath, preparing myself. Rather than responding, I gathered my things and headed home, knowing a confrontation was inevitable and imminent. As I pulled into my condo's parking garage at 7:30 p.m., I spotted my mother's silver Volvo in a visitor spot. My stomach tightened. This was happening. I took the elevator to my floor, the familiar journey feeling strangely momentous. As the doors opened, I heard it. My mother's voice echoing down the hallway, calling my name repeatedly, her fist pounding on my door. Brooke Elizabeth Harrison. I know you're getting home around now. Open this door immediately. We need to talk about what you've done. I paused at the corridor junction, watching for a moment. My mother, usually so conscious of appearances, was creating a scene in my upscale building. Her hair disheveled, her expression frantic. My father stood a few paces behind her, arms crossed, his face set in that stern expression I'd known since childhood. I could have announced my presence, but something made me wait. I wanted to observe this unfiltered moment, to witness how they behaved when they thought no one was watching. My mother continued pounding, neighbors' doors opening briefly before closing again at the disturbance. After nearly 5 minutes, I finally approached, my footsteps quiet. It was my father who noticed me first, touching my mother's arm to halt her shouting. Finally, my mother exclaimed, turning to face me, her eyes blazing. "What have you done?" "The contractors called this morning, saying payments were canceled." They're threatening to put liens on our house. I maintained a calm demeanor as I moved past them to unlock my door. We should continue this conversation inside. Once the door closed behind us, my mother erupted again. How could you do this to us after everything we've done for you? The contractor said you froze all the remaining payments and the maintenance account. Do you have any idea how embarrassing this is? I think we should all sit down, I said, placing my work bag on the counter and gesturing to the living room. I don't want to sit down, my mother snapped. I want you to fix this mess you've created. Call the contractors right now and tell them it was a mistake. I looked directly at her, then at my father. It wasn't a mistake. I made a decision based on new information. What information? My father demanded, his voice dangerously low. That I spent over $10,000 renovating your backyard for a family celebration I'm not invited to. My mother's expression flickered between anger and discomfort. Did Diana call you? This is ridiculous. It's just a small dinner, not the main event. That's not how you presented it when I agreed to fund the renovation, I countered. You specifically said it was for the family anniversary celebration, which I naturally assumed I'd be part of. You're blowing this completely out of proportion, my father interjected. The September gathering is the main event. With everyone except me, I said quietly. Ryan, Melissa, Aunt Diana, Uncle Jim, Grandma and Grandpa Harrison. Even Cousin Teresa, according to Facebook. Everyone but your daughter who paid for the backyard you'll be enjoying. A knock at the door interrupted us. When I opened it, Ryan stood in the hallway, looking profoundly uncomfortable. I thought I might be needed, he said, stepping inside. The dynamic shifted with Ryan's arrival. My mother moderated her tone, though her anger remained evident. Ryan, talk some sense into your sister. She's canceled payments to the contractors because she's upset about not being invited to a simple family dinner. Ryan's eyes met mine, and I saw something unexpected. Understanding. Actually, he said slowly, I can see why Brooke would be hurt. I was uncomfortable with the plan from the beginning. My mother looked utterly betrayed. What are you talking about? Mom, you and Dad accepted thousands of dollars from Brooke for a backyard specifically for hosting family events, then planned the first event without her. That doesn't seem right to me either. The room fell silent. My father shifted uncomfortably while my mother's expression hardened. So, you're both against us now, she finally said. After everything we've done for you both? And there it was. The familiar refrain. The implicit obligation. The emotional debt we supposedly owed for being raised, educated, loved. This isn't about being against you, I said calmly. It's about recognizing a pattern that's been happening for years. I contribute financially whenever asked. I put your needs before my own. I seek your approval in everything I do. And still, when it comes down to it, I'm excluded from immediate family gatherings. You're being ridiculous, my mother insisted. We never asked you to pay for the backyard. You didn't have to ask, I replied, meeting her gaze. You knew I would offer once you showed me how much you wanted it. Just like you knew I would cover Ryan's college expenses and the down payment on your car and countless other things over the years. Ryan looked genuinely surprised. You paid for my senior year tuition? Mom said that came from their savings. Another uncomfortable silence. We should focus on the immediate problem, my father finally said, his practical nature asserting itself. The contractors need to be paid. They're threatening legal action. The remaining balance is $3,000, I stated. You can cover that yourselves if this celebration is so important. I've already contributed over $7,000. We can't just come up with $3,000 out of nowhere, my mother exclaimed. I managed to come up with $10,000, I replied evenly. And I was planning a vacation with that money before I offered to help with your backyard. My father's expression shifted, calculations visibly running behind his eyes. We could postpone the dinner until September, combine the celebrations. Thomas, my mother looked shocked. Everything is arranged. People are coming from out of town. Then include Brooke, Ryan suggested. That was the original understanding anyway. My mother's resistance was telling. It's too late to change the plans now. It's not about the dinner anymore, I said quietly. It's about years of being treated as a financial resource rather than a daughter. It's about finally recognizing my worth and setting boundaries. Boundaries? My mother scoffed. Is that something your therapist taught you? We're family. There aren't supposed to be boundaries. That's exactly the problem, I replied. You expect unlimited access to my resources, financial, emotional, practical, without offering the same in return. You exclude me when it's convenient, but expect me to contribute without question. Ryan moved to sit beside me on the couch. A physical show of support that nearly broke my composure. She's right, Mom. You and Dad do treat Brooke differently. You expect more from her and give her less credit. My father, ever the pragmatist, saw that the conversation was veering from the immediate financial issue. What exactly do you want, Brooke? For us to pay you back. I don't want repayment, I said, meeting his gaze steadily. I want acknowledgement. I want respect. I want to be treated as an equal member of this family, not just the reliable daughter you call when you need something. My mother's anger seemed to deflate slightly, replaced by defensive confusion. We've never treated you as less than family. Everything we've done has been for you kids. Then why exclude me from a family celebration? Why accept thousands of dollars for a renovation I wouldn't be invited to enjoy? For the first time, my mother had no immediate retort. She looked to my father, who was uncharacteristically silent. Ryan filled the gap. I think we all need to acknowledge that there's been a pattern here. Brooke has always been expected to be the responsible one, the achiever, the provider. I've benefited from that, too, and I haven't always appreciated it. The admission from my brother opened something in the room, a possibility for honest conversation that had never existed before. I don't want to damage our family, I said, my voice softer now. But I can't continue in the same pattern. I need things to change. My father, ever practical, finally spoke. What specifically needs to change, Brooke? It was the first time he had asked what I needed rather than telling me what was expected. I need my feelings to be considered. I need to be included as true family, not just when it's convenient or when something is needed from me. I need acknowledgement of my contributions rather than expectation. And I need you both to recognize when you're treating me unfairly. The room fell silent as my parents absorbed these requests. They seemed simple, almost obvious requirements for any healthy relationship. Yet, they represented a fundamental shift in our family dynamic. And the contractors? My father finally asked. I'll release the maintenance fund, I conceded. But the final payment should come from you. Consider it your investment in the celebration you're planning. My mother started to protest, but my father placed a hand on her arm, silencing her. That seems fair, he said, surprising everyone. We should have been transparent about the celebration plans from the beginning. It wasn't a full acknowledgement of the larger pattern, but it was a start. Perhaps the first time my father had conceded any wrongdoing in my adult life. As the confrontation wound down, tentative plans were made. My parents would cover the remaining contractor payments. The celebration would be reconsidered, though no firm commitments were made about my inclusion just yet. But something fundamental had shifted. For the first time, I had stood my ground without backing down, and my family had been forced to listen. As they prepared to leave, Ryan hugged me tightly. I'm proud of you, he whispered. This has been a long time coming. My mother remained stiff and somewhat distant, struggling to adjust to this new reality where her reliable daughter had established boundaries. My father, ever practical, seemed to be calculating the implications of this new family dynamic. But as I closed the door behind them, I felt a profound sense of relief and clarity. Whatever came next, I had finally advocated for myself. I had named the pattern that had shaped our relationships for years, and I had taken the first step toward building something healthier. The confrontation had been painful, but necessary. Now the real work of reshaping our family relationships could begin. The days following the confrontation were eerily quiet. No calls from my mother, no practical check-ins from my father. The silence was both unsettling and liberating, a strange new territory in our family landscape. I released the maintenance fund as promised, emailing John with the authorization. The family situation is being resolved, I wrote, thanking him for his patience. His reply was professional but warm, expressing hope that everything would work out. 3 days of silence stretched into a week. I focused on work, pouring my energy into that major client presentation. My team's proposal was accepted, bringing a significant new account to our firm and earning me recognition from senior management. In the past, I would have immediately called my parents with the news. This time, I celebrated with colleagues instead, enjoying dinner at an upscale restaurant where we toasted success without family complications. The first contact came unexpectedly from Ryan. He invited me to lunch the following Saturday. We met at a quiet cafe near my condo, the kind of place where conversations could happen without interruption. "How are you holding up?" he asked once we were seated. "Better than expected," I admitted. "It's strange not having the usual family check-ins, but also peaceful." Ryan nodded. "They're struggling with it. Mom especially. I don't think she's ever had to consider your perspective before." "Have they said anything about the celebration?" "That's partly why I wanted to meet," Ryan said, looking uncomfortable. "They've postponed it. Dad told everyone there were landscaping issues that needed to be resolved." I couldn't help but laugh at the irony. Well, he's not wrong. "Listen, Brooke," Ryan leaned forward, his expression serious. "I need to apologize for my part in all this. I've known for years that they treat us differently, and I've benefited from it without ever acknowledging it. Even with the tuition. I had no idea you covered my senior year." His sincerity touched me. "You were just filling the role assigned to you, same as I was." "Maybe, but I could have spoken up sooner. I'm sorry it took this blow-up for me to support you." This unexpected alliance with my brother felt like the first positive outcome of the confrontation. A relationship based on mutual understanding rather than prescribed family roles. We talked for nearly 2 hours, comparing experiences growing up under our parents' different expectations. Ryan admitted feeling less pressure to achieve, but more dismissed when he did accomplish something. I confessed the exhaustion of being the reliable one, always putting family needs before my own. "They're not bad people," Ryan concluded as we prepared to leave. "Just set in patterns they've never had to examine." "I know," I agreed. "I don't want to lose my relationship with them. I just need it to be healthier." The first direct contact from my parents came the following day. A text from my father, asking if we could meet at their house to discuss things calmly. I agreed, suggesting Sunday afternoon. Driving to my parents' home felt like visiting a familiar place that had somehow been fundamentally altered. The house looked the same, blue siding, white trim, neatly maintained lawn. But my relationship to it had changed. My father answered the door, his greeting awkwardly formal. "Brooke, thanks for coming." He led me through to the kitchen, where my mother sat at the table, her posture stiff, eyes revealing evidence of recent tears. "Would you like something to drink?" he offered. "I'm fine, thanks." An uncomfortable silence settled. Through the window, I could see the newly renovated backyard. Beautiful, complete, and the source of our current estrangement. My father finally broke the silence. "We've been doing some thinking since our discussion at your place." I waited, allowing him to continue without jumping in to ease the discomfort as I normally would have. "I want to apologize," he said. The words clearly difficult for him. "Not including you in the celebration while accepting your financial contribution was wrong." I should have seen that. The directness of his apology surprised me. My father rarely admitted error. "Your mother and I have talked at length about the patterns you mentioned. I can't say we agree with everything you said, but we recognize that we've perhaps taken your generosity for granted." My mother remained silent, her eyes fixed on her clasped hands. "Mom," I prompted gently. She looked up, her expression a mixture of hurt and confusion. "I don't understand why you're so angry. Everything we've ever done was for you and Ryan. We never asked you to give us money." "You didn't have to ask directly," I explained. "The expectation was clear, and I wanted to help. That's not the issue. The issue is being treated as a resource rather than a daughter. Being excluded from a family event after contributing so much to make it possible." "We didn't mean to hurt you," she insisted. "I believe that," I acknowledged. "But impact matters more than intention." And the impact was hurtful. Another silence fell. Less tense than before, but still weighted with unresolved emotions. "We've postponed the celebration," my father said eventually. "We're planning to combine it with the September gathering. Everyone will be there, including you, of course." It was a practical solution, typical of my father, addressing the immediate issue without necessarily tackling the underlying patterns. But it was a start. I appreciate that, I said. But this isn't just about one event. It's about our relationship moving forward. What do you want from us, Brooke? My mother asked, an edge of frustration in her voice. I want what everyone wants from family, I said. Love, respect, consideration. I want my contributions to be appreciated rather than expected. I want to be included rather than taken for granted. My father nodded slowly. Those seem like reasonable requests. My mother's resistance was softening, though not entirely gone. I still think you overreacted with the contractors. Perhaps, I conceded. But it was the first time I'd set a boundary instead of simply giving in. I'm not proud of how it happened, but I don't regret standing up for myself. We talked for nearly 2 hours, covering ground we had never explored as a family. There were difficult moments, old patterns reasserting themselves, defensive reactions on all sides. But there were also breakthroughs, acknowledgments of long-standing dynamics, recognition of how roles had calcified over time. By late afternoon, we had reached a tentative new understanding. My parents agreed to be more mindful of how they treated me compared to Ryan. I promised to communicate my feelings directly rather than suppressing them until they exploded. We had all committed to working toward a healthier family dynamic. As I prepared to leave, my mother finally offered the words I had been waiting to hear. I'm sorry we hurt you, Brooke. I never saw how our actions might make you feel excluded or used. I just thought that's what family does for each other. Family does support each other, I agreed. But it should go both ways, and it should include everyone equally. She nodded, reaching out to squeeze my hand briefly before turning away, emotions clearly overwhelming her. The following weeks brought subtle but significant changes. My mother called just to check in, without requests or expectations. My father sent a heartfelt email thanking me for making us see what we couldn't see ourselves. Ryan and I spoke more frequently, our relationship evolving beyond prescribed family roles. The September celebration, when it finally occurred, was genuinely inclusive. My contribution to the backyard was acknowledged publicly by my father, who raised a toast to Brooke's generosity and vision in creating this beautiful space for our family. My mother had included me in the planning, seeking my input on menu choices and seating arrangements. Most importantly, I attended as a valued family member, not merely the reliable daughter who had funded the venue. The physical space that had been the catalyst for our conflict became the setting for a new beginning. In the months that followed, our family relationships continued to evolve. There were occasional slips into old patterns, requiring gentle reminders and course corrections. But the fundamental dynamic had shifted. I had established boundaries that were increasingly respected. My parents had begun to see me as an adult with legitimate needs and feelings, rather than simply a resource to be called upon. For my part, I learned that standing up for myself didn't have to mean cutting ties or creating permanent rifts. It meant having difficult conversations, weathering uncomfortable emotions, and committing to building healthier relationships on the other side. The European vacation I had postponed finally happened the following spring. A gift to myself for having the courage to change long-standing family patterns. From a cafe in Paris, I sent my parents a postcard with a simple message: "Thank you for learning and growing with me. Love, Brooke." The journey wasn't over. Family dynamics built over decades don't transform overnight. But we had taken the crucial first steps towards something healthier, more balanced, and ultimately more loving. As I reflect on this experience, I realize that sometimes the most profound gifts we can give ourselves are boundaries, self-respect, and the courage to disrupt unhealthy patterns, even when it's uncomfortable. True family means mutual respect, consideration, and love, not one-sided giving or taking for granted. Have you ever had to establish boundaries with family members who took you for granted? How did you handle it, and what was the outcome? Tell me what you think. I really want to know. Share your experiences in the comments below. And if my story resonated with you, please hit like, subscribe, and share this video. Remember, setting healthy boundaries isn't selfish. It's necessary for authentic relationships to flourish. Thank you for listening to my journey, and I wish you courage in your own.